this presentation, Prepared for the Course, Tools and Techniques in Regional Planning, will give an overview of sustainable transportation topics and contemporary case studies with a focus on issues relevant to an American context. I have tried to make this a balance of radical and incremental planning initiatives related to sustainable transit. We can look at recent struggles with public support in Phoenix and Nashville to see that there are powerful economic forces lobbying against rail and bus projects. When the political establishment turns against transit initiatives, the necessity of investment in these systems is shown through crises. Recently, New Jersey Transit has had multiple failures which have threatened their reputation and have caused traffic issues within New York City. To imagine a better transportation system, we can start with looking at the goals related to walking and transit systems as shown in other cities around the world. In Marrakech, we can see that the city of 900,000 has historic architecture from a time before the automobile, which allows for cultural and commercial activities in a way that brings people together and creates an engaging, experiential atmosphere. Similarly, these images from Italy and Spain show pedestrian walkways too narrow for cars, which allow walkability and embrace a human scale of architecture. Because pedestrians walk slower, they're more noticeable of what's around them, and this makes pedestrian walkways and alleys, such as the ones shown here in Melbourne, ideal for artists. Artists are able to reach pedestrians unlike motorists, who would be blowing by and could not stop to see. Biking infrastructure also needs to be integrated into these walkable urban designs so that people who are able to use biking can interact at a more regional scale. In a creative way, Medellin has had to adjust to its topography by having gondolas, ski lifts, interact with pedestrians in the downtown and bring them up mountains into more residential neighborhoods in the highlands. The benefits of walkability to a business, with pedestrians being more interactable, considerate, and a crowd being eyes on the street, as well as providing a complementary sense of security, cannot be overstated. But on the flip side, walkable places often attract a share of loitering, which could be a negative for some businesses. Most cities don't have the conditions like Medellin, and so their mass transit is going to be a bus, trolley, rail, or subway system. Hong Kong's trolley and subway system and general rail system around the city are often considered to be some of the best transit infrastructure in the world. These impressive, fast, cutting-edge technologies interconnect the city from its economic center in the port region on the bottom left of this map to its more agricultural and remote regions. Hong Kong is now being brought into a bullet train system that has connected Shenzhen with Beijing, and this would make Beijing to Hong Kong a 9-hour trip, which has dangerous political and economic implications for Hong Kong's autonomy to some. Another world-class system worth mentioning is Seoul's, which serves almost 10 million people. It is planned in 10-year increments and has recently added phone and internet to all stations and carts along the subway system. So when we look at these cities in East Asia, North Africa, or Europe, it's worth asking if America wants to replicate or what form sustainable transportation would take in our country. America has perhaps some of the greatest challenges for sustainable transportation planners. We have a great amount of space, and our suburbs are more deconcentrated than many of the cities discussed before, excluding a few American cities such as New York City and San Francisco. Most American towns and cities have very large homes and very large lot sizes relative to the rest of the world, as shown in this infographic. The density of housing in Hong Kong, for example, compared to Canada or the US, is a great boon to the transportation efficiency. Changing and upzoning the density around transit stations is an important goal for transportation planning and has been a challenge in American cities and towns as well. But we are focused on transitions through incremental change, and we need to recognize that these will take time and involve the creative individual, local, and regional decision-making that is involved to reach any of these transportation best case studies that we've seen before. Just like Seoul had to begin its subway system in 1971, we have to begin our transitions from our current car-oriented land development and culture. Our starting point means that incremental improvements in car transit sustainability are very important, such as carpooling, improved efficiency or miles per gallon, reducing the amount of vehicle miles traveled between job and work, increasing use of bioethanols, and reducing congestion in downtowns. Carpool lanes are a good example of how incremental changes can add more occupants to a vehicle and promote a more sustainable and social, as a byproduct, transportation method. Sharing the road with bicycles and pedestrians is also an important way that cars can be made more sustainable, and that car transportation can be planned so that sustainable methods can be incentivized. While planners cannot control the automobiles that are on the market, planners can use congestion fees to control which automobiles and at which time automobiles are traveling through the most congested parts of their cities. Nitrogen dioxide pollution disproportionately impacts minority and poor communities in inner cities where jobs are that attract pollution, despite these communities having fewer vehicles than their suburban counterparts who escape the pollution. The City of London has joined other cities such as Munich and Berlin in using a staged low-emission zone within the inner city, which will soon encompass the full city, that will try to prevent congested roadways and especially give fees to vehicles that have high emissions. In conclusion, the sustainability of America's future transportation system will require a mix of incremental and radical planning processes to reduce and control driving, promote transit, and design communities that allow for walking between the most common and desired destinations. Thank you for listening.